Hello, everybody out there on the internet. We appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm Wes Clarke. I'm an archaeologist at the Castle Museum, and we've got a beautiful day here. It's pretty clear, and we feel we're going to have a very good sighting tonight of the sunset. We appreciate, again, you joining us remotely tonight, and we've got a real good crowd out here of folks. And in a few minutes, I am going to turn on my PA system and talk to the larger crowd that's here with us in person. So that will just be in a couple minutes. So if you'll bear with us while we wait to do that. Thanks.
My husband grew up here, and we've been out Christmas off and on. Like 5 years we've been married. I never heard this till this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and unfortunately, he's taking his mom to get her nails done, or he'd be here too.
Okay, well, we have maps.
I have one.
Oh, you already got one. Okay, good.
And
Hi folks, my name is Kyle, I'm the Education Director here at the Castle. Just wanted to let you know if you have questions or have trouble with any of the viewing options, to go ahead and put those into the Q&A or the chat features, okay? And like Wes said, we will be getting started here in just a few minutes.
Right now, I'm going to turn on my PA.
I see that.
Scott, we'll get him up on the okay. Okay, folks, thank you very much for coming out. It's great to have a nice big crowd. Last year, because of COVID, we came out here and did this all alone, and it was overcast and a little bit rainy anyway, so we didn't see the sunset last year, so we didn't miss much. But we're very happy that we've got a great day, and we should have a great sighting here today in just a few minutes. I'm Wes Clarke. I'm an archaeologist on the staff at the Castle Museum, and the castle is up on 4th Street, just a couple blocks from here. And if you haven't been over there to take a tour and visit us, or to participate in one of the many historical and cultural programs we offer over there, we would certainly appreciate your coming by sometime. We have lots and lots of things going on over there. You can look us up on our website and certainly get a good impression of what we have going on over there. I do want to mention this is a free event. We're just really happy you're here. There is a plastic bucket somewhere that you're welcome to put a donation in if you're so inspired, but that's entirely up to you. The sun's getting close to the horizon, and I'm going to talk just a few minutes about what we're experiencing here, but the main reason to be here is to watch the sunset as it lines up with this long linear space that we're positioned in here. Hopefully you all got the map that we're handing out. And if you take a look at that map, you're going to see one map with a bunch of arrows on it. We're positioned at the non-pointing end of the really heavy black arrow. Okay, if you can kind of find that on the map. We are in the middle of that part of the prehistoric earthworks here that had those two long parallel walls that went from the squares and the circular features of the earthwork down to the river. We're on that, and that is one of the lines here at the earthwork that lines up with the winter solstice sunset. So that's where we're located today. Now, we're going to be able to see the sunset right in the middle of this long linear space here, which is basically marked by the city park now. Unfortunately, those two mammoth parallel walls are gone. They were probably located about where the houses are. on each side of us here. Those walls were up to 25 feet high. They were 40 feet wide at the base. They were really tremendous constructions. And again, this was done prehistorically by people who did not have bulldozers and dump trucks and backhoes to create these constructions. They did it carrying in the dirt, the soil, and the gravel and sand, one basket load at a time. So it was very, it was a tremendous amount of labor, human labor over a number of years, probably over a number of generations. Yeah, I also want to point out, if you look at the handout there, you see an outline of the basic elements of the earthworks here. And you can see it consists of two large rectangles. There's a big circular feature at one end, which is the big conical mound up at Mound Cemetery. And then the parallel walls, which is where we're located today. And that's basically what the earthworks here consisted of. They covered about 95 acres in total area, more or less. I just want to check. I don't want to talk too far into the main event here. And do be careful as you're looking at the sun. I notice a lot of you have sunglasses on, which is great, but if you don't, or even if you do, just be sure to be careful about how much you stare at that sun. It's pretty bright today. Now, the earthworks here at Marietta are mostly created by a culture that archaeologists call the Hopewell culture. That is not a tribal name. That's not a Native American term. It's actually the name of the family where archaeologists excavated a mound and identified this culture. And again, it's called Hopewell. And we can date that. I give you some dates there on the handout. We can date Hopewell culture from about the year zero, to about 450 AD, give or take. And archaeologists will argue about those dates. But so most of the earthworks here is probably about 1700 to 1800 years old. But that circular feature on one end that's still present up in Mound Cemetery, and you should go see it if you haven't seen the big conical mound in Mound Cemetery, that dates to an earlier culture called Adena, and it's probably more like 2000 to 2500 years old. So basically the entire earthworks here was created over a period of probably 500 or 600 years prehistorically. And again, these were made by the Native American peoples who were living here at the time. Now, there were earthwork complexes like this, Hopewell earthwork complexes like this, created across southern Ohio. And there are several dozen of these Hopewell earthwork complexes. And at most of these, we've been able to confirm that there are astronomical alignments built into the earthwork layouts. These were very intentionally built into the way the earthworks were laid out and created. And here at Marietta, at our earthworks, again, you see the alignments that have been mathematically confirmed here at Marietta. So these have been confirmed just beyond drawing a line on a map and thinking it sort of lines up with something. And you can see we have quite a few arrows pointing to the winter solstice sunset. We also have an alignment here pointing to the winter solstice sunrise. We also have two alignments here pointing to the summer solstice sunrise and sunset. So we have quite a few astronomical alignments, and I think it's incredible that these prehistoric people developed knowledge of what was going on in the sky, astronomical knowledge. Again, without telescopes and a lot of the equipment, we think you would need to do that. And then they incorporated that knowledge into these creations they built on the Earth's surface. So they had knowledge of how to lay these things out very accurately. Again, without transits and GPS and things like that. They had knowledge of how to do that and to incorporate that astronomical knowledge into the layout. So it's really a tremendous, I think, accomplishment and represents the tremendous amount of knowledge that's built in, if you will, to these earthworks. Now, I just want to make sure, again, I think we're getting pretty close to the sun actually touching the horizon there. It'll be a few more minutes. I want to be sure we understand what a solstice is. Anybody want to tell us or tell me? Yeah.
It's either the shortest day or the longest day of the year, depending on whether it's the winter or the summertime. Basically, the sun is going to start swinging, or they're going to start rotating, so that the sun is going to go back the other way.
Right. We are going to have the longest period of darkness, basically the longest night tonight. Right. And the shortest day. Why does that happen? Because the Earth, its north-south axis is actually tilted, right? And as it takes a year to go around the sun, that tilt either puts us closer to the sun or farther away from the sun, depending on the time of year. And right now we're in the time of year where the northern half of the Earth, the northern hemisphere that we're in, is tilted the furthest away from the sun. So that is why we're experiencing the colder weather, because we're farther away from the sun. And that's why it's winter here, whereas in the southern half of the Earth, it's summer. It's the start of summer. So that's basically what's going on with the solstices. And just as it's very important to all of us to know what day of the week it is, what month of the year it is, and kind of know our place in time, that has always been important to all people everywhere. And it was important to the prehistoric people, the Native American people that lived here and created these earthworks. So one of the main functions, not the only function, but one of the functions of the earthworks here was to help them keep track of time and the change of seasons, right? They didn't have wristwatches, or they couldn't look down in the corner of their computer screen to see what day it was, right? They had to do it other ways, and this is one of the main ways they did it. So these people grew food. That isn't the only way they obtained food, but that was one way. And it was very important to know where they were in the seasonal round through the year. Now, I think that's probably about all I want to say, except we can watch the sun touch the horizon here and line up with this big linear space we're in. And then once we've seen it here, we can go over to the large platform mound on the other side of the street called Quadrano, and we can watch it line up again across two ramps on that mound over there. Most years we're able to do that. We can see it here and then quickly go over to Quadrano, that large platform mound, and see it again. And you can actually see that arrow on the map here of the alignment that goes off of a couple of the ramps. Now, please, 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 if you do cross the street, to do that, be very careful crossing the street. There is an official crossing point there, if you will. Please use that. But even though cars are supposed to stop for pedestrians, we all know that doesn't always happen. So just please be very careful crossing the street. We wouldn't want anybody to be hurt or a wreck or anything to be created by our big exodus from here to the other side of the street. But we will try to do that. And I think having said that, I will be happy to kind of mingle with everybody and address any questions you may have. I will say the reason why Kyle Yoho, our education director, is standing right in front of me here staring at his phone is because we're also broadcasting this on the internet. So we do have folks joining us that way, mostly people who live pretty far away and could get here today. So we may have some questions from them as we go. Basically now, I'm going to stop talking and let all of us just experience watching the sun come down. And again, you can see it is right in the middle of this long linear alignment, which was originally marked by those parallel walls. This is something that was created 2,000 years ago, give or take, by those Native American peoples. And we can still stand here and experience that event today. And again, thank you very, very much for coming out.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Land is between the walls. Look at the map. These parallels connection from the river. So, you know, they need it kind of hit the front.
Yeah, so it's going to set.
Hi, folks. We're still going to stream it. If you have questions, just put it into the Q&A or the chat, and I will get Wes to answer those for you. So if you want to continue watching it, we will note when it comes to the horizon. Thanks.
Horizon that lined up specifically for the shortest days for the winter solstice. So when it hit that particular mound, that was the end of the start of winter, the end of the fall, and then when you have the summer solstice.
Hey, Wes.
What's left?
The middle of the summer, the longest day for the whole shortest. So it's roughly a 2,000-year-old. So we're standing right near the end of this area, looking in this direction. And then once we're done here, we go across the street to the quadrant and watch it. So it would line up directly with this sacred space. So it all lines up this particular space from this particular. And then there's also right with the corner of the mound across the street in the morning with the sunrise. With all the trees and the houses. The corner of that, the Conus.
They have been there 50 years.
Solstice sunrise. So the shortest day of the year, the sunrise.
I've got a question.
Okay.
On here. Wes, we have a question about, have there been excavations along Sacra Via? What did they find and where are they displayed?
Okay. There have been no formal excavations on Sacra Via other than a few test pits that have been excavated by archaeologists for public projects, mainly the bikeway that crosses the bottom end of Sacra Via down by the river. And those test pits generated some prehistoric material and some information on sites inside Sacra Via. That material is in Columbus now. And again, it's not a lot of material. Unfortunately, there's been a fair amount of historical disturbance within the Sacra Via space, that long linear space. As there have been construction projects out here, I've come and taken a look at soil that was exposed, and it tended to confirm that disturbance. So we don't have a lot of material or information from the Sacra Via location.
And would you mind kind of showing the maps and stuff that you were discussing to the?
So this is what we handed out today. And that gives you both kind of a clean layout of the earthworks, two large rectangles, a large circular feature, and then the parallel walls. And then this map shows the astronomical alignments that have been confirmed at the earthworks. And we're kind of at the top end of that real heavy black arrow right there, looking across the Muskingum River and towards the high valley wall on the other side, where the sun is beginning to touch the horizon.
Did you want to note anything for him about the?
Well, I just think
Yeah.
we're, again, it's not on the horizon yet. It's getting very close. I'm thinking it's probably going to be around 4:30 when it touches, but it can vary a little bit year to year. I'm just very happy that we have a nice clear sighting tonight. That's great.
So thank you for the questions we did get. If there's any others, please feel free to put them into the Q&A and chat. We'll keep checking. Like Wes said, we're going to keep watching. Probably should be a few more minutes before it reaches its penultimate horizon there.
It is dropping, so really quickly, come here, see it here, and then go back until you see it. I'm wanting here. It's really literally. You just keep talking. See it. Okay, she'll have to. Isn't that? Because it's hard when you're staring into it to see it. All right, so you look at it till you see it. Okay, hold it until you see it, because it's halfway down. You gotta get to it.
Oh, I can look at it. I'm like missing that. Look.
There, now you can see it. If you look, kind of squint your eyes and then look away. See, it's dropping. Dropping. How cool is that?
I can see it. Oh my God.
I know, that's what's
Oh my gosh.
it's almost time. And there's
So what you're seeing now is that the sun has just gone behind that one house on the hill over there. It has reached kind of its horizon and is going down a little bit below the horizon for what we can see on our camera here. As you can tell, it lined up right between Sacra Via Park here, between where there would have been walls built by the ancient culture. You can kind of tell those walls a little bit by the houses that go on the right and left, as well as you can see those cars that go down the other street on either side. So it is kind of right smack dab in the middle of where those cars are lined up at. Again, if you have questions, please enter those into the Q&A or the chat. In a moment, we're going to be moving over to Turtle Mound. So if you see a lot of movement on the camera, that's just us crossing the street and making our way over to the other mound.
Lessons from the master. How you doing?
Good. So there's another question in the chat about how they would have observed the solstice. They would have come to this area, and as I'm not sure if you heard before, but there have been walls, large earthen mound walls that have been basically where these houses are on our right and our left. And when the sun reached that horizon that we saw, there have been a lot of light coming through to where we are standing at now. And so either standing on those earthen mounds or standing in the area that we are standing at now, which is now a public park.
Sure. Oh, how you doing? Yeah.
So Wes, our expert here is here now. We had a question about how would they have viewed the solstice? Would they have gathered or?
Well, of course, presumably somebody was here to watch the solstice and mark the fact that there was an alignment. There's little evidence that very many people actually lived here permanently at the earthworks, but there were certainly specialists, probably ritual specialists and craft specialists who lived here year round. And those folks at least would have been here to take note of when the sunset lined up with this alignment, because that was telling them that it was the beginning of the winter season, which was very important.
All right,
I think we want to move across the street, and we're going to kind of go to a different location now where we can see another alignment of the sun. Now, we may be a little late getting there. Most of the rest of our crowd has already moved over that way, but we'll see what we can see when we get there. Hey.
All right, Wes, another good show. We're just looking for the drum circle, man.
Wait. Okay. It's still.
And this is an excellent time as we're walking. If you have more questions, go ahead and put them into the Q&A or the chat.
Oh, there's Wes. Hey, Wes. Oh.
So across the street, you can see the what's called Turtle Mound that we're on our way to. As you can tell, also it's a busy street, so wish us luck as we cross this street.
Hang on. We're approaching the large platform mound here called Quadrano. This is a very rare type of mound. There are only a few of these that were created prehistorically in the Hopewell culture, and 3 of them were located here at Marietta. It's very, very unusual to have 3 platform mounds in one place, as we have here in Marietta. And this one that you're looking at, Quadrano, is probably the best Hopewell platform mound you can see anywhere. It's a wonderful example that's been preserved from the very start since the American settlers first got here in 1788.
And as we're on the move, we had another question about if the people did not live next to the mounds, where did they live, Wes?
They lived in small hamlets up and down the river valley. These were probably hamlets that consisted of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 families. They were not real big settlements. And they were agricultural people. And of course, they hunted and gathered from the locality too. But those dispersed populations up and down the river valleys would gather periodically at the earthworks here, but they were not living here year round at the earthworks. Folks, the second alignment on the solstice is right here. There's a ramp you can see going from the flat top of the mound, a ramp extending out this way. There was a ramp just like it on the other side. And basically, that setting sun lines right up with the alignment of those ramps on this. And we're over here trying to see it here too. Hey, how you doing? It is on your map.
How far in a given day is it? I mean, does it kind of creep over?
It does.
You can see it. I mean,
does.
it's not like.
And we did get a question about there being a map of the MOV with the mounds. That is the map that Wes has been referencing. That is something that we may be able to send out to you following this presentation, probably later in the week, to the emails of those who have registered for this webinar, so you can follow up with that. So we'll try to get those out to you. That's something that you're interested in. There was just a question about if they could get a copy of those maps, basically.
I've been triple vaccinated.
I'm sure we could send that a PDF to anybody who's watching today online who asks for it. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're on top of the platform now, looking right down one of the large ramps that goes from the low ground up to the flat top of the platform. And it's the line down the middle of the ramp that lines it up with the solstice sunset also.
So have you do some of the orientation for folks who got here a little bit later?
Yeah.
Try to get some of those other folks from the corner over here. Nice look on a fixed time. And then let them do next to the floating dock.
And to answer the question, we just have a map of Marietta. I'm not sure that Wes has one available of the entire Minnehaha Valley, but that is something that we can send out. We will go ahead and send it out to the person that asked the question.
Sorry about that. Oh, okay, Mark. It's good to see you. Just kind of.
This rectangle, a big circular feature, which is actually the big conical mound of the mound cemetery. You'll see that mound.
Oh, really?
A platform mound. And then there were parallel walls that went from the rectangle down to the river. That's where we started out. In the middle of that long linear space that is described by the parallel wall. And then the sunset come down right in the middle of that long linear space. That was very intentionally built into the earthwork here by the prehistoric Native American states. With this knowledge of astronomy, going on in the sky, those events that you see track, with that knowledge built into they laid the earthwork out to help them track the average color.
Well, I thought that she did that one day. I thought she
lived in small settlements up and down the river valley. Families and each settlement farmed and worked out on the river bottom, and they would also gather plants and animals from the surrounding area. But they would then come together in these earthworks periodically. They would gather together. There were not a lot of people here all the time, but they did come together here. It was a very special occasion. There were ceremonies, funerals, marriages, feasting, dancing, singing, a lot of activities like that. This is a place where your ancestors were buried, and you could come, you get in touch with your ancestors. We expect that people will be very strong in they could communicate with, interact, and recite from their ancestors. That's one thing, one of many things that made this location very special. In fact, just out the areas that are marked out by those big squares, big rectangles, and other walls that were created, those spaces are probably what we could call sacred. We can use that word, and it still has the kind of meaning we think of when we use that word. I think you can apply that idea to the spaces that were created here. So again, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm happy to kind of be going. Well, there are a lot of trees now. The evidence is that these earthworks and mounds have been kept clear of trees. Because obviously, if you're building astronomical alignments, want to keep the sighting line open. Right? For instance, there's a place in the corner of this mound over in Mount Cemetery, and that marks the winter solstice sunrise. But you can't see it because there's many houses Scott and I have been out here and verified the alignment. Or GPS is saying, site the alignment, verified that actually the sunrise is coming up right on the coast. We can't stand here now. I would get onto the trouble.
I'll bet it is.
That sighting line, the earthwork, if they didn't keep the sight line open, so you could actually mark the sunrise. So actually, you did mark winter solstice sunrise, winter solstice sunset, and then now summer solstice sunrise and sunset are also marked. Those are off. There's two big walls, parallel walls that were there, but unfortunately are gone now. They were set aside for 17. And they managed to make it to about 1860. And then a man who happened to be on city council and his brother happened to be mayor managed to come out here and start playing those now to make bricks. They must have made a heck of a lot of bricks because the mound was hard, or there may be remnants of the mound in the house. But basically, those walls were
Okay, folks, we want to thank you for tuning in for the Solstice Watch. That's pretty much been the end, going to end our viewing here today. So we want to thank you again for attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit those to us via email at education@mariettacastle.org. But we do want to thank you. Please keep watching our events and programs coming up. And we just want to end by showing you the crowd that we still have left up here. And Wes is just doing another orientation for people who arrived a little bit after the orientation that we already gave for this video. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate you attending, and we will hopefully see you for another Solstice Watch in the future. Thanks so much. Goodbye.